The minute I saw this kid, I was like, holy shit, this is really good. I like this. Then you hear him talk. I like that too.
I don't throw in hope. I aim and fire down the barrel.
He's very ambitious, which I love.
Oh, he's hurt again. Oh, another knockdown.
Wow. You know, this guy wants to fucking fight everybody right now.
How you looking? You ready to rock with us?
Yeah, let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is some breaking news for you. UFC 236 will feature an interim middleweight title fight between Kelvin Gastelum and Israel Adesanya.
This was the fight to make.
A lot of people are on the hype train with Israel Adesanya.
I love his style. I feel like it's very exciting to watch.
Israel Adesanya is overrated.
He hasn't fought one top 5 guy yet, and now he's fighting for a championship.
Many people, including me, think this kid is the future.
Basically, Submission Radio is an Aussie media MMA outlet. We try and get the biggest fighters from the UFC, or at least in MMA, the people that make the most sense. And I think that it's great to see other American guys doing it in the States and getting the big interviews. But I think Aussies, being patriotic as they are, they want to see Aussies doing those big interviews, and that's kind of where we fit in. And not only do we have the weekly episodes, but then we go and cover the big events like UFC 229 with Conor McGregor.
He believes he's the real champion. What's your response to that?
Hey, you have to believe. You have to believe.
How necessary do you think 165 is for the UFC?
I think it would benefit.
On Media Day, that's where we get to shine and sort of bring our flavor of interviews to a one-on-one sort of personal interview, and I think people really enjoy that. Again, thank you so much for taking the time, Israel. If you're ready, we'll jump into it.
Yeah, let's go.
Awesome. Oh, Dennis, do you want to do a mic check real quick?
Yep, mic check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Perfect. Awesome. All right, guys. Our next guest is set to return for his sixth fight in just 14 months when he takes on Kelvin Gastelum at UFC 236 for the interim middleweight title. One of the fastest rising stars in the UFC, the last stylebender himself, Israel Adesanya. Welcome back to Submission Radio. How are you, man?
Good. I'm just on my way to go do some more filming and grab some breakfast. How are you guys?
Yeah, good. Well, anytime Israel Adesanya is on Submission Radio, it's always a good time here in the office.
So we were really lucky because UFC 221, when he made his UFC debut, we got to interview him on Media Day, and I think it was still probably one of our best interviews with him to date.
I think it was really important for me to get my experience outside the UFC before I jump in the Shark Tank, and now's the time. I just feel like I've just hit my stride of my prime. Maybe even like just in the cusp of it, and yeah, it's go time.
You kind of felt like you're not talking to a guy that's having his first UFC fight. You kind of felt like you're talking to sort of like a big player, and also a guy that kind of understands, like a really smart guy.
You know, I'm a new age, new breed. I've got a different mindset as well. Yeah, definitely, and yeah, people will find out later on, like, oh, this, and I learned a lot from those guys, John Jones, you know, Conor McGregor, Ali, everyone from every walk of life. But when you see me in that cage, you'll see that I'm a different breed.
Sometimes you'll interview fighters and they don't want to do interviews, like they don't want to speak to anyone, and you want to almost grab them and be like, no one knows who you are at the moment, and like you'll be fighting tough guys, but if no one knows you, you're not going to be drawing as much money. He's the kind of guy that, for me, he kind of from the get-go, he's like, all right, like I need to come across to people, I need to let them in, I need to talk about myself, I need to sort of make the most of these opportunities with media. So,
the last Stylebender in studio, look at that, with the Timbs on, no less. There he is. How are you?
Gravy, baby.
When did you get into martial arts?
I started in Taekwondo when I was a kid, just because after school programs, and it was fun.
Such a good one for kids, man.
Yeah, it was fun. That's why I liked that.
Yeah.
Like, Hana, do, set, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it was cool.
Man, you're making the rounds today, huh? You were in my former home, my new home, you're just everywhere.
You can see that he's probably done a million interviews already. You can see that he may be a little bit over it, but he always says something, at least a couple of things, that he knows will grab headlines. He always makes it worthwhile for the actual interviewer.
What you got? Hey, there it is.
What's up? Dude, one time, oh my God,
Look
they
at
wouldn't
that.
let, they wouldn't let me fly with this on. Sir, we can't let you fly with that on. I was like, what do you mean? It's really offensive. We're gonna have to change that. I'm like,
your stewardess impression is
honestly,
dynamite.
bro, honestly, like literally I was shook.
I think the reason why people like Israel Adesanya is because he's very real. Like he's very fun, he's very entertaining, but he also doesn't hold back.
Shut the fuck up. Start November 3rd. Bring that chin on the platter and I'll clean it off as well.
Bro, why you trying to talk like Connor? You from Nigeria.
Well, my man, why y'all let me look doing you?
And my boy Andre. This ain't no have no wrestling. This ain't no jiu-jitsu, but you soon find out.
Well, I'm the champion, baby, yeah. I'm like, f*** out of here.
February 11th was when Adesanya made his UFC debut against Rob Wilkinson in Perth, Australia. In a span of 14 months, he will have had 6 UFC fights and potentially gold wrapped around his waist. That is one of the more aggressive and, if successful, incredible campaigns you're going to see any fighter go on from their UFC debut forward.
I would say that Israel Adesanya is a guy who's very self-made. Obviously, the UFC have put him in good positions. For example, a UFC 221, he was pretty high up on the prelims. Against Marvin Vettori, he was decent on the card. Brad Tavares, he's already main eventing a fight night. So obviously the UFC have helped push him, but I think really the UFC can push people, but if people aren't interested, then it's not really going to go anywhere. But Israel brought so much excitement and so much curiosity. Like when we interviewed him at UFC 221, and then he went out and put on this spectacular performance against Rob Wilkinson, people were so curious. Who is this guy? People were already saying instantly, this is a guy that's going to make huge waves in the division. This is a guy with his striking pedigree. He might be a future champion. So when he went and fought his next fight, people already had vested interest in finding out, all right, how well is he going to do in the UFC? And I think the second fight, there was some criticism because he was taken down a few times, but I kind of think it made people even more curious. And then when he came out against Brad Tavares, people were saying, this is too much too soon. He's got a great pedigree, but we don't know if he's ready for this level. He beat Brad Tavares very convincingly. People thought Derek Brunson would be a big test for him because obviously Brunson has the knockout power, he's got the wrestling. And I think that was almost the turning point because he absolutely obliterated Derek Brunson. He did it faster than the champion Robert Whittaker. And I think that's when people really thought, okay, this guy's almost ready to be a contender. And then in his following fight, he outstruck the UFC middleweight GOAT, arguably the best striker the middleweight division has ever seen. And also, he's spoken about this, his frequency of fighting. It's impossible to forget about the guy because he's fighting every few months. Every few months, he's doing more media. You're seeing him pop up, and obviously his local media is getting onto that. Guys like us, guys like ESPN. So he's constantly in the headlines, and I think a lot of that has been a big part of his rise in popularity and his rise in the UFC.
This is a guy that's spent a long time in China, and the UFC are looking to expand it to China. They're building a huge performance center over there. So he fought in China for a while and had a lot of kickboxing matches. I think he could speak Chinese quite well. This is a guy that when the UFC signed him, they knew exactly what they had on their hands. And, they went with him. But if the timing was different, it maybe would have been a bit different. Look at just the latest event that went down in Melbourne.
Mass disappointment earlier this morning when it was learned that UFC middleweight champion Robert Whittaker would not be able to defend his title against Kelvin Gastelum.
You know, in my world, we're in the wrestling world, guy shows up, makes the weight. For some reason, doesn't want to, cancels the bout. The guy forfeits the match. I win. I'm the champion.
How bad do you want to be a champion? Do you want to get the next title shot? The guys that are sitting at this table today, they want it. So that's why they're here.
Well, Kelvin Gastelum represents the latest test and arguably his stiffest one to date. Kelvin's obviously got that massive left hand. He's got a lot of power. He absolutely obliterated Michael Bisping. He has very fast hands as well, but he's also a guy who's very good at mixing things as well. His striking and his wrestling.
Will Israel Adesanya be able to keep him at distance and pick him apart with the striking, or will Kelvin Gastelum be able to close the distance, try and take him down, try and hit him with some of those powerful shots that he's got? Both fighters are really, really good, so it's not something that you could say on any given day this guy would win the fight. I think if these guys fought each other 10 times, maybe each guy could win it, you know, almost an even number of times. I think Kelvin Gastelum is that good. I think he's super underrated as a fighter, but Israel Adesanya seems like a guy that's ready for this big limelight, the big fight. He's already fought a guy like Anderson, so I think mentally he's going to be ready for it. So all the weapons are going to be there. It looks like his coach Eugene and him have a very, very sound strategy. And I heard Eugene, his coach, say in another interview with someone that in their last week before the fight that, you know, someone's going to bleed and someone is going to cry in the gym. So he's got something planned. He knows exactly how this is all going to play out.
For the record, I'm done trying to make y'all comfortable. For the record, you ain't trying to grow, then it's done for you. For the record, lab on me going all the way. For the record, ain't trying to link, no time to waste.
I didn't see anything in his eyes. He's not a man that's scared. He's not a man that's shook. So I like that. I like, you know, skill for skill. There's no need to try and like play no mind games or shake him or whatever.
Been a little too nice to y'all. Now I gotta up price on y'all. Snake eyes on dice for y'all. Shoulders on ice for y'all. Frozen. H6 all the hate. I won't get involved today. Got lost in the ball and age. I'm flipping the bars. I'm flipping the.
Obviously, beating Kelvin would set up this massive fight between Israel Adesanya and Robert Whittaker, which, interestingly enough, Israel Adesanya has always been a guy of predictions. He knew that he was going to be fighting Marvin Vettori. He knew he was going to be fighting Brad Tavares. And he said a long time ago on our show, in 2019, he believes it's going to be Robert Whittaker and him fighting for that belt. So Israel's predicting this all along. If he beats Kelvin Gastelum, I mean, he's a guy who talks about destiny and things coming together the way that he predicted. It would be quite crazy to see that actually happen.
I got lab on my back. You ain't that, then it's rap.
He knows. He looked in my eyes. I'm not scared, and I know he's not. So yeah, we're gonna fight skill for skill, and the best man will win.
Obviously, the man takes on Kelvin Gastelum at UFC 236, April 13th. It will be the 14th in Australia and New Zealand because of the time difference in Atlanta, Georgia. We really appreciate you taking the time, sitting down with us, letting us in your life for a little bit, dropping some real talk. Good luck on April 13th. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Easy ass. Cheers, guys. See you.